Thanks for letting me be here, and it was great just to chat with a few of you before we got started too. Yes, I am a business development consultant with the Small Business Development Center at UMKC. So the SBDC, we are funded by for-profit businesses that pay taxes. You're making money. Hopefully, we'll get to that point of how to make money, right? You're making money, you're paying taxes on those profits. Of course, that goes to the Small Business Administration federally, and the buckets are separated out. But they help fund business consulting through your Small Business Development Centers, SCORE, which is Retired Executives Mentoring, the VBOC, which is the Veteran Business Owner Centers, which we will have one back in Kansas City shortly. Just talked to the St. Louis director, and then the Women's Business Centers. So in the country, there's over 1,000 SBDCs. Couldn't even tell you all the others, probably 2,000 altogether. In Missouri, we have 12 small business development centers. 4 of them are associated with the Columbia, Mizzou campuses. Your other business centers then are normally associated with the economic development councils or the Chamber of Commerce's in those areas. Okay, has anybody worked with SBDCs in the past? Besides my cheerleader in the back there, right? Good, perfect. You'll learn more about us, and you'll learn more about what we do. So what I love about our Kansas City at UMKC office is that all of our consultants, there's 7 of us there, we all have owned businesses, literally boots on the ground. And that's kind of funny because I owned shoe stores for years. So for 20 years, I owned shoe stores. So I can use that term. But that was what was really cool. And Michaeline and I were just talking about this. I ended up closing in 2014 and took a class with them in the fall of 2014. And it's a class now that I'm certified in, and I've taught it many times before. But I was like, where have you guys been? Why do these businesses not know about the no-cost resources that are available in our communities, right? And part of it is bandwidth. There's 7 of us there. There are thousands of businesses in Missouri, thousands of businesses in Jackson County, and then the other surrounding counties. So our particular center covers Jackson, Clay, Platte, as well as 8 Northwest counties, all the way up to Trenton, Missouri. So our bandwidth is a little short, but once again, we work with clients from pre-concept, so you got an idea, and we'll talk about all of this, pre-concept, startup, growth, scale, and succession. Okay. Now, as I was walking around the room, just kind of getting an idea of who you are, if you own businesses, if you're a resource partner, bank, whatnot, I am going to preface this with, I'm going to be general, okay? Because I can't dig in the weeds with everybody and what your needs are. Jot my name down. Our website will be on the last slide. I believe this is being recorded as well too. And Michaeline can share the PowerPoint with you as well too. No big deal. But reach out to us, because that's where the rubber hits the road, is that we can have one-to-one coaching and consulting with that. So what we're going to talk today is about growth of companies and the different stages of business growth. And then I'm doing a plug for our SBDC, because we have classes and concepts and activities that help the stages to grow, to dig into that. So why do you guys think some companies grow and others do not? Focus. Focus is definitely.
In the business, not on the business.
Yes, of course. We teach a class, I'll touch on that one too, that gets us out of the day-to-day operations. Because if you are entrenched every day, I was entrenched. I was a control freak in my business. I didn't delegate, and it stunted my growth. I'm very honest and humble about the business. I think I heard you
Well, at the Innovation Center, my companies, I would say it's 2 major things. One is not being able to scale because they can't find labor. Number 2 is poor business financial planning.
So very, very true. And I'm going to touch on both of those comments in different ways too, Danielle. So, and that's true. I'm not going to answer this question for you, but you'll see how it happens as we go through these different business stages of growth. If you have a question too, I'm open to just, raise your hand and ask questions, or at the end, either way. So I don't know if you guys have all seen life cycles, right? And business life cycles. Like I said, pre-concept, startup, we name them differently sometimes. Pre-growth, growth, maturity, decline, innovation, transition. You know, has anyone ever been in a business where our trajectory is pretty much a trajectory that's straight? Our trajectory is normally a crazy out of control roller coaster. You know, we take, hey, I'm in this stage of business. I think I'm in pre-growth. And then I'm reading my characteristics, or I'm looking at it as, I don't have that done yet. Okay, I got to take 10 steps backwards. So we're going to set up and talk about each of these, not each in detail, but each of these different areas and what we can do to focus so that we can understand what stage of business that we're in and what we need to know to be the best in that stage to move us if that's what our desire is. We don't have to move to growth and to scale and to transition. We can be happy with where we are right now. Okay? What is a business? One of our consultants in our office, Rebecca Goebbels, love her, nailed this. A repeatable process that solves problems for other people, not you, other people, that they think is a big enough problem that they're going to change their planned use of time and money. How many people feel like they have a repeatable process in their business? Okay. I will question that, but we'll talk about that. What keeps you up at night? Dr. Dex, what keeps you up at night in your business?
Keep getting new patients and the flow going.
Okay, so I saw you raise your hand that you have a repeatable process. Maybe you have a repeatable process, but that's one of the processes that may not be repeatable because it shouldn't be a pain point for you, right? Right? So I like to say this because a lot of us think that our business is about us. We started a business that we said, you know what, I've got this idea and I'm going to build on this idea because I'm really good at, I love shoes. So I'm going to start a shoe store. I actually was a wholesale manufacturer for years. I had 14 states in the Midwest. I know a lot about shoes and not just pretty shoes. I know a lot about all different shoes. So I'm going to start a shoe store. It was my husband's idea. What I know now, I would have changed things. Anyway, you have the idea. You know, maybe you go ahead and you set up your social media, you set up your Facebook page, you get somebody to set up your website. We actually signed a lease, you know, a 5-year lease on a space, hung a shingle with our business name on it, and waited, and waited, and waited. What are we doing wrong? Where's the customers? We've got a space, we've got a lease, we've got an EIN number and a bank account, and we have product and inventory that we have to pay for, right? So, and that's what happens a lot of times is that we have an idea, we build this brand and this excitement around it, and then we wait for the customers. If anyone knows Diana Kander, she is an author and a speaker here in Kansas City. She's written many books. And she wrote a book called All In Startup. I highly recommend it for early stage businesses, but I also recommend it because the point is you have your idea, you're excited about your idea because your idea probably solves a problem for you, or maybe you're really good at whatever your idea is, if you're, product, service, cooking, whatever it is. Go talk to people. Talk to people and find out, and not just your friends and family. Because they're going to be nice and they're going to say, sure, put your 401k in that business, and yeah, we'll support you. We'll come visit you, once. I mean, my mom and dad bought shoes from me, thank you very much, right? But talk to people and find out, when did you ever stand at a presentation and your feet were killing you after an hour because your footwear was so bad? When did your toes curled up and you got bunions? Talk to me about that. Talk to me about how often do you go to the podiatrist, or how do you feel, how tired are you at the end of the day? So that you can learn, is this the idea that's going to solve enough problems for enough people that they're going to change their planned use of time? Because we were a brick and mortar, so you literally had to get in your car to go drive to us, then, and get out of the car and come shop with us and spend money with us. Once they were out of the car and coming in the door, kind of got the hook there, right? You know, because you spent that time at least, hadn't spent the money, but spent that time. But talk to people first, because otherwise your idea may not be the best business idea, but it could be tweaked, right? You could learn something from somebody that says, hey, you know what? I'm going to open up a cupcake bakery. Okay, well, how many cupcake bakeries are there? No offense if anyone has a cupcake bakery. What problem is that solving that somebody else hasn't done? Maybe it's a gluten-free cupcake bakery. Maybe the cupcakes shoot, you know, sparkles out of them or something, and it's exciting for kids' parties. What is an innovation? What is an idea that customer's telling you, I've had an issue with my cupcake bakery and I really want something that is this. You know, so take that and talk to people and ask those open-ended questions. Then when you feel that you have enough customers that will buy from you, prospective customers, then look at it as, okay, now I can spend the money to build my social media, my website, and build my brand. Don't just do this when you're starting up a business. Do this for any product or service you have to offer, okay? This is a class that we teach. It's through our entrepreneurial education, through our Elevation Lab, entrepreneurial mindset training. This is the class I took back in 2014. And I owned a business for 18 years, but I went back because I never thought I was going to be a business owner. I was going to be the CEO of a corporation when I was a little girl. And then I went into banking. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. This class, though, is great because it does exactly what I just said. You are forced to go out and talk to people and understand what the problem is, how they're solving it now. You know, can the solution be different? Because it's probably not going to be the initial solution that you thought. And then how will they know about it? So we offer this class a minimum of once a year, but more often as needed. A lot of times we offer this class at that, once again, early stage pre-concept. I like it there, but I also really like it in growth and scale because, once again, this class is great canvas and concept for new product or services or maybe a new market that you're getting into. So entrepreneurial mindset trading. So Kansas City, I'm actually part of a small business task force. Think about this. 58% of small businesses in Kansas City fail within their first 5 years. That's huge. I mean, you know, the business license thing gets their fees no matter what. The banks get their initial fees for getting them set up, but they fail within the first 5 years. And part of that is because a lot of times when we set up a business, depending on the need, we may do a business plan. A business plan is answering questions that are off of those whims and hopes and aspirations. Okay, and I'm not against business plans. We do business plans, but in a different format. And I'll touch on one of the formats just shortly here. But the businesses fail, first off, because they don't know their market. They don't know who their customers are. They haven't talked to their customers. 42% of those 58% fail because of that. And the second reason they fail is because they haven't, and Danielle said the word planned, they haven't done enough planning to help them succeed. But that's a stat that actually I just got last week. So this is one of the concepts that I had just shared. Business planning is great. This is, if you've ever heard or not, this is the business model canvas from Strategizer. What this does is use 9 building blocks to help create every avenue of your business. I'm not going to go into every building block. The ones on the right side here are customer focused. The ones on the left side are internal. But I have this in my office, and most of us do, on a huge whiteboard sticky thing on there because we talk about this all the time. And I'm going to reiterate again, I'm kind of going on about customers, but the biggest thing is customer segments. For whom are we working with, right? For whom is our customer? For whom are we going to create value? Who are our most important customers with whatever we have to offer? Could be commercial, you know, printing company, B2C, business to, B2B, business to business, or B2C for HVAC, you know, consumer. Know who your customers are. Know who the demographics are. There's not a library in here, but Mid-Continent and Kansas City Public Library, get a free library card, people, no matter what. There are so many free resources on the library sites and databases, but the library will help you. Kelly Head with Square One will help you figure out the demographics, maybe based off your POS, emails, or zip codes, but the little plastic thing that you carry around to pay for your membership here, to pay for everything that you go do, tracks your demographic. And so these databases are built upon credit card usage, and they can track who those customers are. Now, you can have multiple different customer segments. That's great. I would try to focus on your top 3 customer segments because those are probably 80-20 rule, the ones that are giving you the most money. But we want to know who our customer segments are. In my initial iteration of the shoe store, they were diabetic patients. Okay, so we actually opened up a store that fit footwear back in '91. Medicare enacted a law that said diabetics can get footwear because of the number of amputations that were happening and orthotics. So diabetic patients. So we needed to know, we knew that, but those were the ones that were just getting the footwear through insurance. Our true customers ended up being the endocrinologists, the diabetic educators, but the biggest light bulb went off when a woman came in and said, hey, my mom is at Beautiful Savior in Belton. Will you go down and fit her with shoes because I've gone to Payless and Walmart and everywhere and I cannot get shoes to fit her. Called Beautiful Savior, they said, yeah, we've got diabetics. 10% of our beds are diabetic. Light bulb, woohoo. That's after a year later that the banks are like, yeah, we're going to start funding you, because when you first start on your own money, nobody wants to give you anything. But that was that iteration of the business. It wasn't that initial concept. But once again, that was our biggest customer segment. Skilled nursing facilities, 10% of their beds. And then once we got in there, it was directors of nursing or PT. So you get to know who your customer segments are. Then you find out value proposition. What value am I giving you? Not financial value. What problem am I solving for you? What benefit? I mean, a lot of times people buy things for emotional benefit. I'm going to get service from Paul for my HVAC because it's going to be 100 degrees tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. That emotional benefit is, you know what? I don't want to sweat for the next 3 days in my house, Because if my HVAC's out, either Paul's going to come take care of it, or I'm going to go to the Holiday Inn and hang out there for a while. That's an emotional benefit. Ronald or Robert? Robert? Ron. Okay, so wealth planning, emotional benefit. I'm getting ready to retire in the next few years. I want to work with him because I want to know that I got enough to sustain the lifestyle that I've become accustomed to. I like to play and travel. I like great shoes, so I'm going to actually, that emotional benefit. So figuring out what that emotional benefit is that value proposition. What are their pains? And then what are they going to gain for you? And then how much are they willing to pay? So currently, what are they paying for commercial office furniture? What are they willing to pay? Doesn't mean you have to be less. It means you have to create more value for them in order for them to pay more, right? So understanding what your revenue model is, and then understanding those pricing tactics. But this is a great canvas. We use this in our one-to-one appointments. We use it in our growth program, our tech venture program, our scale-up program, because it really gives a great business plan for the business to be able to know how am I going to make money? How am I going to create value? So growth. I'm going to make the assumption a lot of businesses in here are probably in the growth stage. Growth is where we spend a lot of time. Growth is that area where businesses need the most focus. Now, Danielle made a comment about scaling the business, and I'm going to touch on this. Is growth and scale as words are used concurrently. They are two different lifestyles or stages in business. Growth is when you're in business and your revenue's increasing because you're selling, but your expenses are pretty much increasing at the same rate that your revenue is because you haven't set your foundation with the business. So think about that. I'm increasing my sales, but you know what? I've got to hire the salesperson. I've got to buy some software. I just don't have any systems in place. Scale is when your revenues increase, but your expenses, they're still going to go up somewhat, but you've got the foundation set and your bottom line profit has increased because your expenses are not increasing as much. So I want to say that because I always think in two different stages of business with growth and scale. So going back to growth, growth is where we need the most help. What I have seen in my 8 years as being a business consultant is there's 3 areas that businesses struggle, especially in this stage. Anyone want to take a gander to what 1 or 2 or 3 of those areas are?
Expansion.
Not ready for expansion and growth. Get it, but not ready for expansion. Probably more along the scale side.
Delegation. Finding somebody to do some of the tasks.
She wins she wins one of the prizes. Absolutely, you got a little mug for her there, Michaeline. The 3 areas. The 3 areas are delegation, processes, documenting processes, and financials. Those are the 3 biggest areas. People come in all the time. I'm having a problem with expansion. Well, then let's talk about the financials. Let's see if you can afford to expand. We may backtrack a little bit and get the foundation because we're not ready for expansion. If I expand too fast, as I'm talking too fast, but if I expand too fast, then I may fail, right? So there has to be a plan in place. It's not saying that you can't, but let's just make sure the plan is in place. So during the growth phase, we teach a class in our Elevation Lab entrepreneurial education called Growth 360. Growth 360 focuses on 4 areas of business. It focuses on your business concept, which seems very primary and remedial, but it's so interesting to see that in the growth stage, some clients don't have an idea of what their true focused concept is. And then it focuses on the organization. So that's when your employees come into place, the operations, where your financials are really coming into place, and your customer relations, where a lot of the marketing and service comes in. Then within those 4 areas, there are 20 focus areas. We cannot dig into all 20 focus areas. And even your most relevant growth, the companies you think of that are out there in the marketplace are doing exceptionally well. They are not doing 100% in all 20 of these areas. So what we do with every single client that comes in the door is give them this 360 assessment. What this tells us then is, where do you feel you are in your business today in each of these areas? 0's in the middle, and then 100%'s out to the side. And then we have them circle 3 or 4 different areas where that will help direct our one-to-one coaching with them so that we can actually focus on some of these areas. Paul, do you want to say anything about Growth 360? I have a little plug in the back there that I saw him walk in.
Everybody, I don't care how long you've been in business, should take it. I mean, it's truly eye-opening.
Thank you.
You've been in business 5 months or 50 years.
Yeah, and you can always be learning. We offer this program a minimum of twice a year. On our criteria, I'm not crazy about criteria because Paul just kind of nailed it, but on our criteria, we recommend that you've been in business at least 2 years because we want to see consistent revenues happening. And you may be a solopreneur, so it's just you have with the business, or you may be looking at your first hire or multiple hires, but it's a 10-week program, 30 hours, and like I said, at least twice a year. You've got great activity worksheets that focus all around there, and I kind of call it the business Bible, no offense, but it is very recommended for businesses. So going back to what our business broker in the back said, 3 areas: delegation, financials, and document processes. How many of you guys have your processes out of your head and onto some kind of cloud base or paper format? Okay, for every system and process that you have in your business, so that if I walked in your business as a new hire, Ron, and you said, hey, Jill, you know what? This is how we do X, Y, Z. Here's the process.
It's not perfect yet.
I don't want it to, no, I want it to be perfect, but it's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. And I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for progress. What's that?
And we don't have everything. We probably have the majority, but that's an area that I know that we need to fulfill.
Documenting your processes will add 25% more value to your business, or I should clarify that, Patricia, right?
Yeah.
Pat, okay. 25% more value to your business when you sell your business. She's a business broker. So, because people don't want to come in and have to recreate and learn everything, they want it handed. Now, they may change it, but they want it at least handed. I want to keep your employees, so I want to know how you're training your employees. Somebody else raised their hand about processes. Do you feel that you have them all documented? Danielle?
Sorry, I gotta take on my throat.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. That's the biggest struggle for all of us as entrepreneurs is getting it out of here down onto paper. I'm going to give you a quick little story. I had a construction company in Raytown, doesn't really matter, but when I was working with him, he said, you know what, Jill, we created a process that my contractors would come in, if they'd gone to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever to get their stuff, they would need to scan their invoices, and then once they scanned their invoices, it would automatically go into our QuickBooks so we knew which project that the invoices were for. It helped the owner that he didn't have to be asking 20 questions and, gave the employee a little bit more lift in their confidence of scanning them. The first question was, how do I turn the machine on? Okay, that's really silly, but it's so relevant because, a lot of times I hired people and I kind of threw them to the fire too, where's the alarm, right? Where's the light switch? Simple things like that. It's silly, but what I want you to do with processes is think about, like I said before, what are those fires that keep happening? Maybe the employee is calling you as the owner regularly, and it's the same thing over and over again. Or it's just a cog in your system, or it keeps you up at night. How do I get more customers? So create that process. How did you get your first customer? How did you, the best month that you ever had, or the best year, or best season that you ever had, how did you get those customers to come in and then to come back in? Retaining a customer is a heck of a lot less expensive than gaining a new customer. So make sure you always have follow-up with that. But get those processes out of your head and onto paper. Start with the ones that give you the pain points first, okay? Delegation, employees. Employees and HR are always an issue. Michaeline said you guys had an employee HR people over, but delegation is, I don't know how many of you guys are solopreneurs or if you're still juggling all the balls, right? What tends to happen in growth stage is we're in our own way. We can't grow because we're not allowing ourselves to grow because we haven't delegated. So think about what is a task that I should not be doing. It's not the best use of my time because I need to be out there getting more sales, more income generation. So if I'm that front-facing person and I need to get more sales, then who do I need to hire for the back office? It doesn't always have to be hired, contractors or W-2s. Think about outside services. Paul and I were just talking about this. Sorry, Paul, I'm going to throw you under the bus. Because marketing, wanting to do more marketing, okay, he had a budget, paid a firm to do more marketing, said it was going really well for, let's just say 6 months, some good return, and then it kind of fizzled off. Okay, at that point, I would say, okay, let's get with that marketing firm and find out why it fizzled off. Do they need to be re-educated with what I'm doing? Did I communicate with them that, hey, these marketing efforts worked well, and we need to continue to do these? Paul would like to know, what does SEO look like? What do analytics look like? Can I have a general understanding? I'm not opposed to that, but is that the best use of time to have that general understanding? Okay. Don't dig into it and do it yourself because you're the HVAC guy. You're really good at repairing HVAC or plumbing. I'm not going to hire you to do the marketing for my business. I'm going to hire you to do my HVAC. So hire those professionals that are in your marketplace that are good at what they do. And then also think about technology and software. We started our business in 1997. So at the time, we used index cards to track inventory. Size 8, style, blah, blah, blah. Instead of doing that, then we got software. And software not only tracked the inventory, but it also could track a model stock of inventory and then call or relay to our manufacturers, this is when we need to fill in. Yes, I approve that PO. The order's automatically coming, which saved me time. It also then was tracking all the customers. Okay, so all the customers and the analytics with the customers, which made it a lot easier to sell to them. And then financials or funding. Growth is a stage 2 where we normally don't have enough assets to change our capital, or enough capital assets to change what we want to do. You know, we may not own a building at this point. We may have some equipment. We've got some inventory, you know, but the bank doesn't want to go into shoe sales. You know, they could sell a building, but they don't want to sell shoe inventory if I went out of business, right? So growth is a stage where it's harder to get, not harder, it is more, you've got to be more planning focus to get the capital, the funding that you need for hiring that employee, buying the software, buying the equipment. Growth is also a stage that we need to understand our cash flow. We need to understand that we've got fixed expenses every month, so we know every 30 days, you know, we got to pay rent, utilities, insurance, payroll, you know, phone, internet, whatever this cost of doing business are, that's a fixed expense. How much in sales do I need to do in those 30 days? And how quickly can I get that money in hand, right? Because a customer, time and money to give it to you, well, part of that's also on the commercial end or the business-to-business end. Do you have terms with your customers? So if I've got net 30 terms maybe for some of my business-to-business clients, then I need to have cash flow that's going to cover me for at least 60 days. Because I've serviced them then, you know, in this month, maybe the 20th of the month, I don't know what today is, and then I'm not going to get paid, and I'm lucky to get paid in 30 days, it's probably going to be 35 or 40 days, right? So we have to understand what cash flow that we need in order to continue our operation to go forward, okay? This is also the time too, a lot of times when we start a business, we set up that bank account and they are our banker. This is when you're looking at funding. If you've ever read the book Profit First, I don't look at all of their aspects of what they say, but what I do like is have relationships with at least 2 different banks. Okay? Have maybe one bank that is where your operational account and your payroll account are, so that money can be going back and forth. Sales are coming in, operational is paying those fixed expenses, and your payroll's there so that you know you can pay your employees and pay your payroll taxes. Then I would set up a second bank that my profit or my savings is in. That way, money unseen is money unspent, first and foremost. Secondly, now you've got relationships with 2 different banks so that when you're ready to go get your funding or you need some help with some money, some loans and that too, you can talk to 2 different banks. And don't just know the teller at the banks. Get to know the manager and the commercial lender there or the banker, the development banker. Get to know them and they know you. Because they're going to look at not just your business and what your business criteria and your financials are, but they get to know you, then they'll back you up a little bit more. I'm going to dig into processes just really quick because like Ron said too, hey, we don't have them all and they're not tweaked. Progress, not perfection. So just to give you an idea, I mean, processes are what we do. Procedures are how we do it, and policies are why we do it. And I like this slide because I think our employees sometimes need to, first off, we need to know it, but our employees need to know this too, and to communicate to them. So just to give you an example, this is the back office financial operation overall process for a company, let's say. Accounts payable is that sub-process. So the process is accounts payable. The procedure is all of these tasks that are running down here, which is a lot of tasks, but you know what? These are all necessary. And the policy is why. So we get paid by our vendors, so I can pay you payroll, or we can buy inventory, or we can stay in business. So I know this seems detailed. There is software out there that actually will help create this, but this is what processes look like, so that if I had a booklet that showed me accounts payroll, accounts receivable, customer service, sales, then it would be a heck of a lot easier for me to do my job knowing what the tasks are. How often do we go into McDonald's in the bathroom and we see there, only 5 little checklists, but that's their process of every, 3 hours, and they're initialed and checked. So it makes it very simple. They know what their job is. So just very, very detailed. Ron, is yours anything like this? No. And once again, too, they're never set in stone because things change, right? You tweak them. And I always tell my owners, have your employees do it. Your employees are the best people who are doing the process already. Have them first outline it, and just outline it. General checklist, bullet points, and then you guys have a conversation about it, and then you go through it and tweak it a little bit more. But it'll always be changing because things change. Whoops, there's nothing there. Oh, I forgot this is right. Another action plan or a concept or activity is doing a SWOT plan. SWOTs help companies not only plan for their next stage in the market, but also understanding your competition and then introducing products or services to the market. So SWOTs focus on your strengths, things you do really well, your weaknesses, things you don't do too well, opportunity, what's next in the marketplace, and then threats, normally competitors and or your external environment. COVID was a threat we could not control. So your strengths and weaknesses are internal, things that you guys can control as business owners. Your opportunities and threats are external. You don't have any control over. We want to focus on strengths and weaknesses though. So I actually run and do SWOTs with larger corporations too, and I have all their employees. I mean, I've had 60 employees at one point, managers, because hearing from your employees what is not what you think it would be is really cool to understand and enlightens your eyes as an owner. And we do it with little sticky pads and have a lot of fun with it. So then the next area of focus is, I like to say that this one uses maturity. Scale is this next area. So in scale, we're looking at a couple things. So I think you had mentioned, I don't know if you had mentioned, expansion. We could take new products or services, no, we could take our existing products or services and expand into a new market. Think about the airport. I've got clients that they have a food truck in Kansas City. They've got a brick and mortar restaurant in Kansas City. They were invited through Vantage to be part of the concession group at the airport. And now they actually are getting the opportunity to expand with Vantage's other airports around the country. Another part of their scalability is they're introducing new products to an existing market. So they've got Kansas City covered and their restaurant. So what they did is they said, hey, you know what? We've got a really good product that everybody wants to have. And it's a gluten-free bread product, let's just say. Because I don't want to tell you who the client is. So what they did is they have a production facility. So they are creating production off of this bread product, packaging it, and distributing it to grocery stores. They actually just signed a distribution agreement with AWG, Associated Wholesale Grocers, with Sysco. But what they've done is now I've got product in my existing market. So I'm still a food truck and a brick and mortar and an airport concession, but now I've scaled another product. Another way to scale is looking at pivoting. I mean, COVID. How many of us, for whatever reason, I'm on a restaurant kick, I guess because we're doing lunch. How many of us during COVID, we couldn't go out or we just weren't allowed to yet, especially at the early stages. Tons of businesses closed, tons of businesses pivoted. A lot of restaurants pivoted, and one of my favorite Mexican restaurants did a great job because they brought margaritas out to your car and pictures of margaritas out to your car that you could take home, right? They connected with DoorDash and Uber Eats. They weren't doing it before, probably because it's a little bit more costly, but now they were doing it just so they could stay in business. They were doing the parking lot pickup. Hey, if you're close enough, I'll deliver to you. But that was all pivoting, so that they could actually stay in business. So when we're looking at scale, we're looking at things that we can expand a market, we can use our existing market and expand our products or services with them. Becoming more niche focused is a part of scaling too. Had another client who went through Scale Up. He, actually he's from Independence. So he is an electrician by license and certification and education. So he's always going to do electrical work in his mind. But where he really was landing with his business was home remodeling, restoration from disaster, fire, flood, all of that. When people go through our program, and I put some of the worksheets or some of the sheets in the back called Profit Sense, we do a financial data analysis and we compared the last 2 to 3 years of their financials to their own business as well as to their industry. What we found with this business, and we told them, your electrical services are costing you money. You are not making money on this arm of your business. If you took the energy that you're taking, because he had employees over there and it just was not making money. So if you can redistribute your employees or get rid of that payroll if they're not the right people for the right service, and you focus just on the home restoration, the remodeling, remediation, we see more opportunity for your business to grow. By the end of that year, I think the class ended in May, by the end of the year he had done that. The next 2 years he grew 200%. He sold his business for, I think 4x a year ago. So that's where scale is that focus and that niche. Don't be everything to everybody. We were talking a moment ago about hustle a little bit, side hustles, which I get. I mean, a lot of us, I've always had side hustles. We still all own businesses, side consulting. I don't have any time to do it, but you know what? It's still there, right? Focus initially on what your business is. Get that to be repeatable. And once that's repeatable and you're not having to put out as many fires or as many pain points, then start doing the fun stuff, right? Or the different hustles because you want some extra money. So I'm not saying don't do it, just it's in timing. I mentioned Scale Up a couple times. So Scale Up is a program that initially 8 years ago, we were funded by the SBA for this program. Now we actually generate our own funding to continue the program. We have had over 200 alumni go through this program. We're on our 13th cohort, which is going to start in a month. Applications are ending by August 14th. We start August 24th. It's 16 weeks intense. Just read a testimonial from a client. It's like getting an MBA. I mean, this is really digging into business. So this is for businesses, once again, that have been in business a couple years. Initially, it was for businesses that were at half to $750,000 just to get to that next trajectory of over $1 million. Now we don't limit that because we've had $50 million companies in this program. $50 million companies have the same problems that $50,000 companies have or $500,000 companies have. And normally it's those three areas, like I said, documentation, delegation, and financials. So if you're interested, great, but it's a really intense program and it is mandatory. All of our programs are mandatory and they're in person because the biggest takeaway that we get is everybody's in the same boat. You're not alone on the island. And when you can meet and be with your peers and realize that I'm not alone, then that's just huge value. Because you're having these conversations and you're also having roundtables and collisions. Danielle?
I missed the date. When is it?
It starts August 24th through December 14th, Thursday mornings, 8:30 to 12:30. But applications are due by August 14th. www.scaleupkc.com. I can send it to Michaeline and she can get it out to you guys. Okay? Last thing is transition. So this is where we decide, you know what, if we don't innovate, then we die. If we don't get into new markets, if we don't pivot, then we die. Or what do we want? As Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. What did we want for this business? Did we want to be able to sell this business? Or did we want to just close it? I will tell you, when I opened up my business, I was a lifestyle business. There's lifestyle or legacy. There's nothing wrong with lifestyle. It's a business. It's not a hobby. It is a business. I was very profitable with the business, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with the business. And I didn't set up all the planning and parameters for that structure to sell it. So when someone came to the door and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to open up a shoe store. And I was like, well, why don't you buy mine? There was no value built in. Even though I was profitable, there was no value built into it. You lose 30% of your customers normally when you sell your business anyway. There's only a limited number. You probably know the statistics, Patricia, but limited number of businesses that actually do sell. Ron and I were just talking about what's happening now is the silver tsunami. Baby boomers our age and older are looking to retire. There's a lot of businesses at this stage and they can't retire because they don't have anybody, middle management, to take over the business. And the Gen X's, there's not as many of you. There's half the population of you. So there's going to be a bunch of businesses that are going to close, unfortunately. And that may be an opportunity to open up something else too. So keep that in mind. But you have to innovate and you have to look at what that end is. And if you want to sell, then decide what those selling structures are. Some of the key areas in selling is if you are the owner and you didn't delegate, which I didn't do, and the business relied on you, that's the number one killer of selling a business. You cannot be that sole person, not to say you don't have other employees, but you can't be that sole reliability responsibility. I was telling Ron, I've got a large Kansas City construction company that I met him at a lunch network, and he said, Jill, you know what, I want to retire. I want to say he's late 60s, early 70s. I said, okay, good, sounds good, you can go travel. He's like, you know what, but I don't have anyone to take over the business. My middle management's in their 40s. I said, okay, well, what are they doing? And he's like, well, I do everything. First mistake. So I hold my clients accountable. They may not like me. They know they need me. Right, Paul? Yeah. And so, he comes to see me now. He's way over our SBA small business standards, but he comes to see me because I hold him accountable, because I give him tasks every month of delegation to these other people. And then we created a leadership program to train the middle management up. We're also talking about ESOPs too, employee ownership. So there's a couple opportunities. I don't know where everybody is in their stages of business, but Missouri has a Missouri Center for Employee Ownership. It's a great way to look at larger businesses. Ron and I were talking about this because you really want about $500,000 in net profit bottom line in order to be afford to do it and have 20 plus employees. But there's another employee ownership called worker cooperatives and worker trusts too. Worker cooperatives can start really well with startup businesses to get funding in, or when you want to do an expansion, you can actually do a worker cooperative. And I can dig into that further at another time with you guys if you are interested. So, transitioning is, where do you want to go with this business? Am I going to sell it? Am I going to close it? I ended up closing my doors. So March of 2014. Didn't get anything out of it. Spent 98 to, well, that was a secondary business, 98 to 2014. So, lived a great life, was able to take care of things, but didn't get anything out of the business. So that's why I'm here today, working a job, right? But I love what I do because I love working with small businesses. But think about that, and think about that earlier now than when it's too late. Because someone may come knocking on your door and say, hey, Jeff, you know what? I want to buy copy print. Okay, well, let's talk about this. You may not be ready. What's the check amount, right? You may not be ready for it, but you want to be ready. So the number one benefit to, like I said, processes, get those documented, and cash flow. You want to have a minimum of 3 years net profit increases with your business, and you want to have projections that business can continue to cash flow and be profitable. You don't want a heavy customer concentration. You want a variety, not tons of customer segments, but it's very difficult to buy a business where it's really focused on one specific customer segment and concentration, just so you can mitigate some of that risk and utilize that. But good, thanks for the information on the business broker ideas and thoughts with that. So what I'm going to do is share with you, I don't know, Michaeline, if we have enough time to do these, but what this is an activity. Take one pass around. How about that? Let me divide these up. Actually, I think there's more on this side. So this is an activity I do in our growth program as well as in our scale-up program. And when you open up the large page, what you will see across the top are the different stages of business, just like we talked about. I'm not going to name them verbatim, but early stage, pre-concept, startup, pre-growth, growth, maturing, scaling, transitioning, declining, innovation. Across the top on your verticals or on your horizontal. And then on your vertical sides are characteristics of each of those stages. So you're going to check mark in the boxes across here, okay? So this isn't showing my characteristics. Well, it actually shows it over here. This is characteristic. Sales and growth are erratic, and the business is small, chaotic, and resources are scarce. Or am I more businesses sales driven? So then you're checking mark on your horizontal, only one check mark on the horizontal. Okay? And then what you do after you get a check mark on each of the horizontal, depending on what stage you're in, based on those characteristics, then you connect your check marks, and we call this the zigzag exercise, because we think that we're in rapid growth stage, but gosh, maybe we're in startup on some of these characteristics. And what this exercise does is listening to your business is it tells us or shows us where we are today, and then we understand where the gaps are of where we want to be in the next 3 years. So it's a great tool to define more characteristics in these business stages, that this is where we are today. Where do we want to be in 3 years? What do I need to get done in these 3 years? I like the bottom one, the red flags, because those are ones that are really good to, okay, I need to get a lot of these done. Okay, so you guys can do that now, or you can do it on your own. And then just lastly for me, like I said, what we do with at the SBDC is we do 3 things majorly. One-to-one, no-cost consulting. So our website's on the next page. You can reach out on our website and let our admin know that you're interested in meeting with a consultant. SBA has a specific form that you complete and fill out, and based on your needs and your stage of business, then she puts you with the appropriate consultant of that focus area. We do classroom facilitation, as you saw. We have lots and lots of classes from pre-concept, startup, entrepreneurial mindset, new venture, Mythbusters, Growth 360, Scale Up, and then we do a lot of one-off programs, leadership, branding, social media, lots of understanding financials and cash flow, understanding construction contracts. I teach construction business management as well, succession planning, employees and HR, so lots of one-off. We listen to what you guys want as businesses, and so we can dig a little bit further to see how many people want that topic. And then we are a plethora of resources and connection. We are located at 4747 Troost. It's the University of Missouri Kansas City's Innovation Center, right across from the Discovery Center, so we're on the north side of campus. And in that building is SCORE, SBDC, but also our partners, KC SourceLink. Jump on KC SourceLink, write it down, www.kcsourcelink.com. They are a great avenue to find out what classes and programs are in the whole metro area, and connections throughout the whole metro area. Danielle's program's in there, Timothy's and Harrison's program's probably in there. So a lot of your resources. And then also us as consultants, we give you connections. I have coffee a lot. I love coffee, but I have coffee probably too much. But I get introduced to a lot of professional people and partners. That's awesome, great, because I believe in what you said. If you say, hey Jill, you know what, I got a really good bookkeeper that I want you to meet, because I'm gonna not pick on you, I'm gonna pick on Patricia. Patricia, I need another business broker. So I already said to Patricia, we're gonna go have coffee. Wow, you know, I normally don't say that. But I want to get to know, because I want to have 3 minimum resources to offer. And if Patricia tells me, hey, this is what we do as our strategy for business brokering, it works with what my clients are looking for. But when my clients say, hey, Jill, you know what, that Patricia, you know, then I have a conversation with Patricia and just say, hey, you know what, I'm hearing this is what's kind of happening. Maybe there's something happening there that, you know, we didn't initially discuss. I'm not going to add to his referral anymore. So we're a plethora of that. But we really focus on introducing concepts, kind of like I did today. We're not going to dig into the weeds today, but we introduce concepts, and then you got to apply those, right? Practice what you preach, practice what you're doing, and apply those. And then we do a lot of interactions with small groups and peers, and then, like I said, classroom facilitation. So I am Jill Hathaway with the Missouri SBDC at UMKC, and there's our website.
Very good. Jill, for coming here today. Jill, did anyone have any questions?
Yes, any questions? I've seen it all. One get embarrassed.
I didn't like the example where they're gonna be not happy with people.
Well, we'll have to trust that and
Hopefully
change
that
that.
won't be the case.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen businesses that, one thing I did want to say when we were talking about business brokering is selling, sorry, Michaeline, I always have stuff rolling in my head. If you decide to sell your business, don't stop growing your business.
Yes.
Don't stop what you're doing. I had another client that they connected with a business broker, but they were just exhausted. They were just tired. And so their sales went down. This was 2 years ago. Their sales went down. And initially, I think they were probably at about $4.5 million that they could have got for their business. After those 2 years, when we reevaluated, or after that year when we reevaluated, about $150,000. They're like, holy Toledo. I'm like, yeah. Now you got to kind of redo the work and re-energize your business again too. So do not stop what you're doing when you're getting ready for that. Okay, sorry, that's mine.
No, you are totally fine. Well, let's thank Jill again, and hopefully you guys were all able to take away some of her expertise today and use it in your own businesses. Oh, I think Danielle does have a question.
Can you go back to the top 10 startup mistakes real quick? I didn't get them all.
Michaeline, will you share this with everybody too?
Absolutely, I'll be happy to.
Okay, so number one is not talking to the customers to know what the customers want and what problem that they're solving. And then the other highest is planning. So it says hiring poorly, but really building something that nobody wants and truly planning for that.
That's a good graphic.
Or maybe they don't even understand it and they might need it. Because,
Sure.
so you do like kind of survey people? Like,
Do we survey people to find out why they fail?
well, no, when when they're starting, like you said, I mean, wouldn't you encourage them to? I'm thinking about starting this kind of business. Would you be interested in that?
Oh,
Maybe do that first.
that's where I go back to this.
Yeah.
And that's where I go back to go talk to
Like
people. This whole-
the pre-idea stage or whatever,
Yeah.
and see if
Go
they
talk to
would come to
people.
your coffee
Is it
shop,
viable?
or if they would,
One of the iterations after the diabetic shoes, so then what we did is we still had the brick and mortar. My husband then got a trailer with inventory and went to every nursing home. We had every nursing home in Missouri and Kansas covered. We had employees, da-da-da-da. Well, then my commercial, we were in Brookside, Waldo area, lived there, play there, church, school, all of that. Don't get so entrenched in your community necessarily, but that's another conversation. The things I learned, I signed a lease for a 6,000 square foot space at $9 a square foot. I'm like, that's really cheap. But when you're facing the sun and you've got 60 feet of storefront, your utilities were just as much as what your rent were. Yeah, we had 4 AC heating units. Anyway, there's so many stories I could tell. So then my commercial realtor's like, Jill, you've got to go to the Land of Milk and Honey. You've got to go out to Leawood. I don't want to go to Leawood. I want to stay right here. This is my neighborhood. Wait it, keep the store here because once again, I didn't have the manpower set up to be able to manage multiple locations at the same time. I did close the Brookside store and I did go to Leawood, went in and built out a 900 square foot space. I didn't even have to put a bathroom in it because it was less than 1,000 square feet. So I locked the door if we had to go to the bathroom, but it was all about inventory turn. It was a totally different concept. But what I did not do, even there, was this, because the average sale price for a pair of shoes was about $250. I was on a national retailers board with Italian importing and trying to figure out, do I have enough customers to warrant that? I did for about 3.5 years, but then customers started saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go to New York or Chicago or Atlanta. I don't wanna see shoes that other women have. And Zappos came into the marketplace about that time. And this is kind of something funny. I'm a Missouri girl. I've always been a Missouri girl. I married a guy from UP and made him move to Missouri because it's better on the Missouri side. But in Johnson County, Leawood, where I was, they had parallel parking and a parking garage. And I love the concept. Work here, play here, shop here, dine here. So I'm like, this is easy. Park in the parking garage. I'm a good parallel parker. Not everybody's taught the same way on how to park in the parking garage or that they think that it's safe or how to parallel park. Jill, I'll circular space 3 times. If there's not an available spot, then I'm going to go elsewhere. And I can tell you how many rubber tire marks were up on the sidewalk and the curbs and everything. So it's just different mentality too. So anyway, like I said, I've got so many stories and so many experiences, and our whole team does.
Very good.
Any other thoughts or questions? So reach out to us. We'd be glad to work with you at whatever stage that you're in.